Keepsake Craft with the Waco McLennan County Public Library's Genealogy Department. My name is Alisha, and today we are going to make a custom genealogy journal. Let's start with the supply list. You're going to need a map. That's what we're using to cover ours. It's really customizable. That's what I like about this project. You can cover it with anything you like. Whatever theme you want. The supplies are easily accessible. They're very affordable. So it's just a really fun little craft. We're covering ours with a map. This is just a road map of Texas. I've already cut it in half to make it easier to handle, but this is going to be our covering today. You're going to need a composition style notebook. Something that's not spiral bound. You could use spiral bound if you wanted. I just think this looks nicer. I've got some old newspaper to cover my work surface to protect it when we use the adhesives. I've got rubber cement. I did use spray adhesive on one of my examples. We're not going to use it today because we're working indoors. You want to use spray adhesive outdoors. It's going to be really fumy and kind of messy. You could use like a Mod Podge or a school glue if that's what you have. They are, I think, more of a water base, like they have more moisture in them, so just be aware that your covering and your notebook cover might warp a little because the glue is so wet. I think rubber cement or spray adhesive works really well for this project. Also, we have stuck together some duct tape. That's what I'm going to use to cover the spine. Sometimes you can find decorative ones really cheap at dollar stores. So again, really affordable. Sometimes you can find the composition books at dollar stores. Usually even at like Walmart, they're still pretty cheap. Also, I have just some decorative stickers. These are like scrapbooking embellishments, sticker alphabets, whatever you want to decorate it. Sky's the limit. Have fun with it. Okay. Oh, and the map resources. It's not as easy to find printed maps these days. Everything's online, so check with your visitors bureau, or if you're traveling, pick one up while you're traveling. I know a lot of people go on the road to do their research. You can pick one up while you're there. There are free printable maps online. If you do a Google search, you can find some good resources that way. And also, if you want to purchase one, while you're out, look for maps at places like gas stations, maybe bookstores, maybe your grocery store has one hanging up by the register. So there's lots of places to find them. Just keep your eyes open. Okay. First, I'm going to trim down our map to fit the covers. I'm doing two pieces, one for the front and back. I thought about wrapping it around the edge, but with the opening and closing of the book, I was afraid that the paper might buckle because once it's glued down, it's not going to shift. So I like to use the straight edge of the map. You can always trim yours down to whatever section of the map you think is pretty and you want to display on your notebook. If you do travel and you pick up a map while you're there doing your research, it's a great way to feature the place that your ancestors are from. So that's just a really fun idea. I'm going to put this about halfway down their tape binding and then trim, let's see, I'll leave at least an inch allowance all the way around the side.
I'm gonna shift a little bit this way just to.
Let's move this piece. I'm going to use the whole map here. There's one side. Oh, that's going to be my front. And then flip it over. Make sure your map's right side up. Let's see. How do I do this? This way. Sorry, I had to flip everything in my brain and didn't make sense for a minute. Okay. Yeah, so if you can't cut straight edges, like I can't cut straight edges, give yourself lots of allowance around the side, and then you can clean it up later with a ruler and a craft knife or something. Or if you're not worried about it, that's cool too. Okay, let's put out some newspaper. I'm gonna use the rubber cement today, since we're working on this indoors. Ow, I didn't think about that. And it's very stringy and gooey and messy, so let's not get it all over the tabletop. Okay. Always consult the package directions on your adhesives. You're gonna get the best results that way. And it's also gonna be the safest way to use your adhesives. I'm gonna cover the whole front. I'm gonna make sure I get this all the way to the sides. It doesn't have to be on really thick. You don't want it too wet. It takes longer to dry that way. Generally with rubber cement, if you do both of your surfaces, you give it some time to dry. I got it really thick right there. Just enough to be tacky. You don't want it to dry completely. And we're gonna line this up about halfway down the center of that spine tape, like we'd mentioned earlier. Make sure you've got your allowance around the edges. A little short on the bottom, but I think I can make it work. I'm gonna run my finger around the edges of the notebook to kind of crease that. Flip it over. This isn't necessary, but I think it lays more smoothly if you trim the corners. Let me open this up. There we go. Trim the corners. Since these comp notebooks have those rounded corners, and when you trim it, I'm just gonna cut a little notch into either side of that rounded corner. It lays a lot flatter, there's less bulk at the corners, and it's not folded up, it doesn't look as messy. And back to the glue. Alright, I'm gonna do back side of the paper all the way around. And just on the edges on the inside. Fold these in. You could probably trim some of this extra off here. So fold the corners in. Oh, sorry. Fold the corners in first. And then just go around the edges and fold this in real snug against the edge of your notebook so it lays nice and flat. Let's do this. I did not clean up the edges before I glued this down. You can do that if you want it to look nice. Also, an idea, if you want to cover this up, you can just glue down your first sheet in your notebook Let's make sure that's just one sheet. There you go. You can glue it down like an end sheet in a book, and that covers all that mess up. Okay. You're gonna do the back side exactly the same way. We're gonna imagine we did the back. Back is gonna be done exactly the same way. Especially, you're gonna wanna give your adhesive plenty of time to dry. Especially with rubber cement, if I remember correctly, it takes some time not only to dry, but it needs like a little bit of time to cure, to stick really well. So again, check the directions on your adhesive. Then we're gonna reinforce the spine and kind of cover up this raw edge with some tape. I'm gonna cut a strip longer than the length of my book. Again, you want some allowance on either end. And I'm gonna try to kind of eyeball this so it's about halfway. Press it down. I'm gonna fold it under. Pretty side. It's not quite half, but it's close. Now, I'm gonna lay this down and trim a little bit on either side and press that down on the inside. If you wanted to glue that first page down like an end sheet, you'd want to do this first. That way it's also covered by your piece of paper. That. And then you can trim this little extra bit down. That makes it lay a little more neatly. Okay, so there's your journal, front and back covered, spine covered, and then you get to do the really fun part, which is decorate it. You can use like sticker alphabets, scrapbooking embellishments. I have a couple finished here. So you can see there's just research down the side. You can label it whatever you want. Label it memories, label it family stories, my family history, just whatever makes you smile. This is I liked this one. This was a transit map. It's got all the colorful paths on it. So thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the craft. I hope you come and visit us in the Genealogy Center. If you have any questions, you can come in or you can call. And I don't know. All right. Thank you.